All right, do you want to officially start now?
Sure.
All right, let's end it.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Be safe. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 14 of Screen Woven. I'm Chris. This is Daniel.
Hey.
Happy July 4th. Happy birthday, America.
250 years old.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. We have a pretty on-theme episode for you guys today. We're going to talk about a couple of patriotic movies that yours truly sat down and watched for the first time.
I can't believe you watched both.
Yeah, man.
I know you said that. I didn't think you were actually going to watch the full.
I almost didn't.
That's what I was getting at.
Cutting it pretty close,
Yeah.
but I managed. So that'll be fun little discussion on that.
I'm so excited.
I think we're gonna save a specific one for last because I feel like that discussion is gonna be a little more involved.
Oh no, that scares me.
No. I'm just saying, like, I feel like you're gonna like that. That's gonna spark more conversation
okay,
because
right.
you clearly are more excited about one than the other. But
They're both fun movies.
oh yeah, no, they were both great. They were both great in their own right. I mean, I have my own things about each, but I mean that's to be expected for like two 20-plus-year-old movies that I'm seeing for the first time in almost 2030.
Yeah.
But they were both great films. So we're going to talk about those, and for those who weren't tuned into the last episode, just to fill you in, or for those who probably didn't read what's most likely going to be the title of this episode, Independence Day and The Patriot. So that's going to be fun. Before we jump right into the main thing, let's just kind of clean house, cover bases, all that good stuff. Kind of a light week again, but we did get a couple new trailers. First trailer for Project Hail Mary came out. It will, in fact, be starring Ryan Gosling. It's an adaptation of the novel that was written by Andy Weir. So if you're a fan of The Martian that had Matt Damon in it, same vein.
Is it the same universe?
That I don't know. That's actually an interesting. I don't know that he does the whole connected universe thing. He probably could because a lot of his stuff's very same flavor. But I don't know that he goes for that.
That answers my question. But I was asking, like, is this like a sequel, but it's just a different character? Or
Right? Yeah. No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Not that I've seen. I never did finish the book. I told you last time. I need to go back and like restart it and read the whole thing. I really want to read it before I see the movie. But that looks like it's going to be really fun. And then for our more, family-oriented, family-based audience listener people, a new Cat in the Hat animated movie is coming out.
I saw
the
that.
trailer for that came out. I'm actually kind of excited about that one. Didn't know that was happening, but I love Bill Hader, and I think him as Cat in the Hat is pretty spot on. That's
Yeah.
pretty good casting. Some funny little gags in the trailer. I mean, nothing spectacular, but it looks cute. It's definitely one I would like to go see if time permits and all that. So that'll be a fun one.
Did you watch the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat?
Oh yeah, man.
Did you like it?
I mean, I haven't seen it like now as an adult, and I'm sure I would get a different kind of enjoyment out of it because I know that's one of those movies that had like a lot of innuendo type jokes. As a kid, I remember kind of being iffy on it. Like, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It was kind of just like, that was okay, man. I watched it. I don't know, going back as an adult, if I would like it more or less. But have you watched it like recently or?
Semi-recently. I have an interesting thought on it that I'd like to share, if that's okay.
Yeah,
with
go
you.
ahead.
I don't want to interrupt your flow of the
No,
intro.
I mean, that, like I said, it's a pretty light week. I think that's most of the couple of big things that dropped. I mean, news continues to trickle in about Spider-Man. Yeah, news continues to Salt Bay in about Spider-Man Brand New Day and things of that nature, but nothing crazy. At this point, we're pretty much in wait mode for Superman and Fantastic Four.
Oh, yeah.
So
This thought on Cat in the Hat, I think it's going to be an interesting conversation, but also I had this epiphany right before you pulled up today about the Superman movie
Okay.
that I want to ask you about
Okay.
because I think it's very possible that this could be happening. So,
All right.
I don't know. But before I get to that, the Cat in the Hat thing. So the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat. When that movie came out, I didn't realize this until I watched it recently, but I realized that movie was just a way to try to capitalize on Jim Carrey's Grinch because that was such a huge success. They did this live action thing where they put him in the suit and they tried to do it and it didn't do nearly as well. The movie's okay, and I like Mike Myers.
Yeah.
But to me, I think people missed that because basically every other time that's worked, it's happened. It's started a trend of something, like
Yeah.
the Disney live action movies. Like
Yeah.
that became a whole trend. Or the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that became a trend. People are trying to do connected universes now. Granted, they're not doing it as well as Marvel, but a lot of people are trying it.
Right. It became a thing.
But what I think that really goes to show you, though, that the cat, because nothing was tried after the Cat in the Hat. Like, it just didn't connect in the same way the Grinch did.
Yeah, that's true.
That was never tried again. I think that was a testament, like a historical testament to how unique and unrepeatable Jim Carrey is as a comedian and an actor. None of his movies have ever been remade. They've never even talked about being remade. The Cat in the Hat is the closest attempt to something like that. Like, he is such an iconic, unique person that was just unapologetically himself. He just did something no one else, like in comedy, that no one else has ever done before.
Yeah, the two closest things I can come to like thinking about any of his movies being like redone, and they really weren't redone, they were spin-offs.
Oh, Dumb and Dumber?
Well, that's a good point. Okay, 3. And I would say that one was moderately successful, but I mean, yeah, it wasn't. That was Dumb and Dumber
Yeah.
wasn't nearly as successful as even Dumb and Dumber 2, which was the third one.
Yeah, that one, I didn't like that one, though.
I did. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's stupid, but I like it. I mean, I went to it expecting it to be stupid.
Sure.
I think it helped that Raymond and I went to see that together we brought 2 girls, and it was like the girl I went with, me, Raymond, the girl he went with. So like we were in the middle, and both the girls we went with were like not into it at all. And so that almost made it even funnier for me and Raymond, like, because that had some pretty gross humor in it.
Yeah. Too gross.
At times. There was a couple I was like, you're pushing it.
Yeah.
But there were, oh my goodness, man. Like, there were some really, really funny moments in that.
There were funny moments.
I love they go to the parents' house of the friend they had that died. He's like, I made him an even trade. My bike for his helmet, straight up. And he died on the bike. Stuff like that is hilarious to me.
Or the part where he's like, you want to hear the most annoying sound in the world? And he rings the doorbell. He's like, that is annoying. No, not that.
He's like, that. Yeah, no, that was pretty good callback. But that, I wasn't even thinking of that one, but that one was moderately successful. Evan Almighty, the spinoff from Bruce Almighty.
I forgot about that.
But that, I mean, Steve Carell as the leading man, that's hard to beat too. He's a pretty unique comedic talent, so I don't count that.
Yeah, but I do. I don't think Evan Almighty was nearly as good or successful. It was a good movie.
It was not nearly as successful. But Bruce Almighty was more aimed at adults, and Evan Almighty was more like a kid's movie, like a family movie. You could tell by the kind of jokes that were in it. Like, some of the jokes in Bruce Almighty were like the whole sequence where he like pulls the moon closer and he's like doing stuff with, was it Jennifer Aniston that was like that kind of stuff. Nothing like that was in Evan Almighty. Like, it was much more family friendly, and you could argue that for certain movies there's a bigger market for stuff like that, but whenever it's spinning off of an adult film, I don't think it got as much attention in that way. But
well, even though as a big fan of Bruce Almighty, I watched it with the expectation of Bruce. Like you're because you're spinning off of that.
mm-hmm.
Maybe it was just a marketing error, but is like this feels like a kind of cheesy family movie. Like I agree with that. And if that was what I was expecting, I might have liked it. But it just
right. It was a completely different vibe.
Yeah.
And then the only other one that I know of or could think of was an absolute disaster, which was the
Son of the Mask.
oh my gosh, I wasn't thinking of that one.
That was a disaster.
But people hated that one.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it as a kid. And because of that, as an adult, I don't despise it. I mean, I can completely say it's not as good, not even close. But it's an interesting spinoff. I mean, for a kid's movie, I thought it went from an adult audience, like it was catered to an adult audience. The Mask, Son of the Mask is very much like a kid's film.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very different. But I was going to say Ace Ventura Kid Detective.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Which was like a Cartoon Network original movie that like came out on Cartoon Network years ago and was just so dumb. It was so bad. It was literally like a remake, but just as kid. Like it was literally just a kid trying to replicate what Jim Carrey does.
Yeah.
And I think he did his best. It's no hate towards that kid. He might be very successful now. I don't know. But it did not work for me. Even at the age when I first saw it, I was like, what is this?
Yeah. So that's really funny that we have the absolute inverse opinions, because I actually thought Kid Detective was pretty funny. But here's the thing is I think it's our expectations, because I went into this the way it was, because it was on Cartoon Network. It felt to me like they weren't trying to replicate Ace Ventura. This is going to be a cheesy TV movie. It's just an idea. And I kind of had that impression. But there's two scenes that I remember from it that were actually really funny. It's like he goes to this girl's house because she's lost her fish, so he's going to help her. And she opens the door and he goes, "Oh my gosh, you're pretty!" and covers his mouth. Do you remember that at all?
No, I don't remember anything from that movie.
Yeah, okay, well, that was funny. And then he goes and finds the fish tank where the fish used to be, and he puts an outline of a fish in it as if it's like a chalk line.
Well, see, that would be really funny to me if I hadn't just watched The Naked Gun, and that movie did that first.
Oh, really?
Well, not with a fish, but you remember, OJ's character, the Nordberg or whatever, he goes to investigate the drug dealing thing on the ship.
I don't remember anything about that movie, really.
Well, he gets shot, he falls into the ocean, and whenever Harry Drebin or Frank Drebin goes to like look at the scene of the crime, he looks out on the ocean and it's like going like this, and there's like a tape this white tape looks like a chalk outline just floating in the ocean of him falling into the ocean.
That's hilarious. Okay, well, I like it less than Kid Detective now because they stole it.
Yeah, it's definitely.
And that sounds even funnier too.
So. Especially if you saw how he died, because like he walks in and he does something.
That's hilarious.
Like he has his gun out or something, but for some reason doesn't like point it at them or whatever. But that's what it was. That's what it was. He goes to kick the door in to surprise them all. And when he kicks it, only his leg goes through. So they all stand up and then get their guns out. So like they've had plenty of time to like, he has no surprise drop on them. He's just one dude and there's like 15 of them with guns pointed at him. So the main guy walks in, he says his spiel, and then he says, kill him. And they all like are like shooting him like a lot. But even at that, he like slowly dies. And as he doesn't die actually, but as he's like dying, you think, he like falls and then he gets back up and then he lands on a wall. And when he pulls his arm away, it was wet paint. So he's like, like that's a big deal that he got wet paint on his sleeve. Then he turns around and falls face first into a wedding cake. Then he steps into a bear trap, and like it's like thing after thing after thing, and then he falls out of the ship into the ocean, and that's where the outline is when Frank comes. I mean, it's like that movie did absurdist comedy before anybody, and they killed it.
Yeah,
but yeah,
literally in that case.
Yeah. But that is, I mean, it's still a funny gag, and it's cool that they did that. But yeah, it does feel a little cheesy, having recently seen it in the movie that did it first, at least as far as I know. But yeah, you know what I'm noticing though, as we're talking about it, is it seems like every Jim Carrey spinoff became more catered to kids, other than Dumb and Dumber 2.
Dumb and Dumber.
Well, I'm talking.
That's a sequel.
Well, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Dumb and Dumber wasn't necessarily catered to kids. So yeah, I mean, other than that one, I mean, Evan Almighty, Cat in the Hat, Ace Ventura, Kid Detective, Son of the Mask. Can't think of any others, but
yeah,
that's
a
weird
true.
trend.
That's true. But I think the important thing that I'm learning is the way any of those had any kind of success, and it was really moderate compared to the original, in all cases, is they had to make it very clear that we're not trying to repeat Jim Carrey. Like in Dumb and Dumber, the sell was, this is them when they were in high school, when they were learning about themselves and they had just met each other. So it has and Shia LaBeouf in that movie. Shia LaBeouf should do. I'm so sad he did not. I love him as a serious actor. He's one of my favorite actors. But
that's wild to me.
Really, why?
Just
he's a nut in real life.
Yeah,
yeah, he's a crazy dude. But so is Tom Cruise. I mean,
well, I mean they all are. But yeah. That's crazy to me that Shia LaBeouf is one of your favorite.
Why? He's a great actor.
I'm not even saying he's not. I mean, I haven't. The one movie I can like recall seeing him in as like a serious actor that I thought was like really, really good, and he surprised me, was Fury.
Oh yeah. I didn't like that one as much. I liked him in it, but that movie was just like, the language was just over the top. I mean,
it's probably true to the times though.
I don't know when did that take?
World War II.
Yeah. I don't know if it was true to the times back then.
I'm talking about true to the times if you were a soldier deployed fighting a war in Germany.
I don't know, man. I really don't. I mean, it could very well have been that that's the case. But I don't think that people, when they're like, their lives are on the line in that sense. I don't know. I could be completely off. You know, maybe that's the way the military has always been. Even George Washington was just...
Let him rip.
He was going across the Delaware, just like yelling out expletives the whole time. America. Anyway,
coming again to save the day. Yeah.
I forgot even what I was saying now. Oh,
that you love me.
Well, that is true, but that's not what I was saying.
That's actually probably the nicest thing you've ever said to me on this podcast.
That's true. I'm usually really mean to you for some reason. All right, so I was talking about Shia LaBeouf, but I was actually talking about Jim Carrey. So I'll start with Shia LaBeouf, and then I'll go back to Jim Carrey.
You were talking about him in Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, I was saying...
And then you kind of branched off. I was like, I wish he would do more comedy.
He should do more... And even Stevens, like, he was hilarious in that. And that show would not be funny without him. Like, he was a...
Or Beans.
Beans was funny, but he was funny despite him not being the best actor, you know.
That's fair.
But Disney, Nickelodeon, all those kid shows, the acting was never really very good in any of those.
Drake and Josh would like to speak to you.
Dude, as much as a big fan of Drake and Josh I am, Josh was not a good actor. He was terrible in that show.
I don't know about that. Seeing how he is in real life and then watching him portray this like spastic, over-the-top, nerdy character,
he was better in the earlier seasons. For some reason, as it went on, he got more it was like over the top, and to the point where it's like not believable.
I don't know. That'd be interesting to like go back and watch those and talk about that.
Maybe so.
Because to me, I remember as the show went on, it got funnier.
It kind of did, but Josh is despite.
But you're
Josh's
saying he was a weak link.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
In the earlier seasons, I thought it was reversed. Like Drake wasn't bad, but he was okay, but Josh was like, he seemed really comfortable in his skin. But like, yeah, as it went on, I think Drake got a lot better, and Josh. I don't know. I think he just really tried to dive into the whole, what do you call that kind of acting? Like a lot of movement.
A little bit of physical comedy, kind of like slapstick-esque, but like just very emphasize like
Emphasis.
I
repeat words for emphasis. Emphasis.
Right. Yeah, they totally made fun of that in the little with the other two,
Drew and Jerry.
Yeah, Drew and Jerry.
Great show. I'm not knocking the show.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Great
show.
writing, really. The writing is what made that show.
That is true. One of my favorite lines in that show is Drake's like, "Why didn't you tell me you were dating Mindy?" He said, "Because I didn't want you to think I was an idiot." He goes, "That's not why I think you're an idiot." Just great writing.
That show is just full of quotables, though. It's
really is.
Why do you have this set up in the living room? He's like, because right now this is my room. And he's like, no, this is the living room. And last time I checked,
yeah,
living,
yeah,
like that. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Anyway, Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf's a great actor.
Best actor ever.
Let's not go that far. He's just a great actor, and I've always loved his performance. I wish he would do more comedic roles because I think he's hilarious. I think he's actually got a real natural gift for comedic acting. But anyway, so I think what all the Jim Carrey spinoffs go to show is that Jim Carrey is a one-of-a-kind person that is,
I would agree with that,
almost pretty much impossible to replicate. And the only way spinoffs were sold is it was sold as like we're not trying to repeat Jim Carrey here. We're just taking one of his stories and putting a different spin on it with a new character, you know? Or a version of his character that's obviously different.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. And you kind of see two paths that were taken too, because they either try to go so completely left field. I don't know why I'm pointing right. Left field with like someone who's not at all like him, like in The Kid Detective or Son of the Mask.
Mm-hmm.
Or they tried to go more of like the route of, hey, it's not Jim Carrey, but it's Steve Carell.
Yeah.
It's Mike Myers.
Yeah.
Two other legendary comedic like there were kind of two attempts.
Yeah. And like the biggest successes that those comedic actors had was with their own, like The Office was very Steve Carell.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim Carrey even appeared in The Office at one point.
Yeah.
But he appeared in Steve Carell's world. You know,
right.
It wasn't like he was doing and then Mike Myers, Austin Powers. That's very Mike Myers, you know?
And Wayne's World.
Well, yeah, Wayne's World too. But it's
actually Wayne's World 2 wasn't as good.
I never saw Wayne's World, to be honest with you.
That was just me being stupid.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I've seen the second one. I might have.
I haven't seen
Wayne's
either.
World is definitely the better one if I've seen the second one because I don't remember it.
Yeah.
The first one's iconic.
Yeah.
What do you think of Will Ferrell as a comedic actor? We've never really talked about that. I know Jim Carrey's your favorite.
Yeah.
Steve Carell's probably my favorite.
You like him more than Jim Carrey?
Probably.
Really?
I really have a huge appreciation for what Jim Carrey can do, like physically, like the way he can contort and do his face and the voices and all that. And like you said, that really makes him one of a kind. There's really no one who can replicate that. But what is more impressive to me, in a way, in a sense, I'm not downplaying that, but what is more impressive, or equally impressive, I should say, to me, is that Steve Carell does none of that, but still can't be replicated. You cannot find someone to do that like deadpan delivery that's like his timing and just the kind of face that he has when he says like, and it just, he could do it completely serious like this, but the way his inflection is, and it's really brilliant. It's really, really brilliant. And he always kills me every time he's in a movie. I love Get Smart. I love, what's the Dinner for Schmucks?
Oh yeah.
Crazy Stupid Love, which is double great because it has Ryan Gosling in it, who I also love. Underrated comedic actors. You want to talk about that? Shia LaBeouf, Ryan Gosling.
That is true.
He is an underrated comedic. He is hilarious when he wants to turn that on.
Yeah.
Like when he's in a movie that needs that, he's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway,
Have you seen? Oh, I can't remember the movie. It's an Amazon Prime original. It came out, I think, last year. It's fairly new, with Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling.
oh, it wasn't an Amazon Prime. You talking about Fall Guy?
Yeah.
No, I was actually just scrolling through the other night and was gonna watch that, but I didn't, only because I was like, this feels like a movie Regla would want to watch with me.
Dude, it is hilarious.
Was it good?
It was so good.
I wanted to see it when it came out in theaters, but it didn't work out for us at the time. But
Ryan Gosling is hilarious in that movie.
Oh, I
too.
bet, dude. He's so good. I'm telling you.
Oh man, you gotta. I want to talk about that movie with you because
okay, we'll have to check it out.
It's so funny.
That would be a fun one, just because that's kind of like a rom-com, right?
Oh yeah.
That would be a fun one to have the wives on for.
That's a really good idea.
Like, do me and her watch it, and I'm sure Claire watched it with you.
Yeah.
Y'all watch a lot of movies together, so that'd be a fun one to have the wives on.
Or just have them on.
Oh my gosh. That would be hilarious. That'd be awesome. Oh man.
It'd be better because we're not in it.
Maybe we get some viewers. But another on that track of underrated comedic actor, Chris Evans.
Yeah, he's really funny too.
Have you seen Ghosted? Well, you probably haven't because you don't have Apple TV. That one's an Apple TV original with him and Anna de Armas, so you know how he's like typically like the big action movie star?
Yeah.
It's an action movie, but he plays like a kind of simple, he's like part of like a Midwestern family. They have like a farm and they live in like a small town, and he happens across Anna de Armas and kind of like falls for her, gets a huge crush on her. They have like a really good day. Like they kind of spend a day together doing different things. And she gives him her number, and his character in the movie, like he's always getting made fun of by his family because he like falls too hard too quick. And so he's like really trying to play it cool.
So he's like covered in bruises and
stuff.
stuff.
Like he's really not, he has no balance, no equilibrium. But he has this number, and he's trying to get in touch with her because they had a great time, and she's not responding. She ghosted him, and he's like, what the heck? And they're like, hey man, calm down. Like, it'll be all right. It was one date. Like, she might get you back. She might not, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, he like won't take no for an answer, and he finds a way to like go meet, and like he ends up falling into, she's like this like international like spy, like a Black Widow type. And he falls into this whole spiel that she's in the middle of with like a huge, I don't know, international gang or something. I forgot. It's been a while, but bad guys. But he falls into the hands of some bad guys because they think that he is her. They don't know that she's a girl. So when they get him and he's like, he's like freaking out. And then she comes in and like, she gets him out of there, and then like the rest of the movie is like them arguing because he followed her there, and like throughout the whole thing, he plays like the funny, like the one who's like freaking out, like he's the funny one because he's the fish out of water in that scenario, and it's really well done. Like it's very funny, and they also had a lot of chemistry from I think working together on Knives Out, which was also great.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah,
I liked him in Scott Pilgrim.
Yes,
he was really funny in that.
Scott Pilgrim, man, great movie, movie,
great. That movie's so good.
But yeah, so that's kind of, I guess we'll call that a wrap on that topic. But you did say before we jump into the patriotic stuff, you had something to say about Superman.
Yes, I do. I absolutely do.
Okay.
I'm trying to create some suspense here.
Oh, okay.
I am starting to think it is not a coincidence that they picked a Marvel director to direct the new Superman movie in the midst of all the multiversal stuff happening in Marvel right now and the Battle World coming up. I started looking up that channel that you sent me, Comic Books Explained.
Yeah.
And so I was listening to Secret Wars just because I wanted to get a feel for, which by the way, Doom is an awesome character.
I'm telling you, man.
I'm like excited.
Yeah.
Now, like,
yeah.
I also found the secret. Well, this is actually what inspired me to go look up the YouTube. Is I went to Barnes and Noble and I saw the Secret Wars. I guess it was an Omni, and I just started the opening with Doom was really cool.
Yeah.
And he's like looking into the void of space, and he's like, "Who dares defy? I do." Oh man, I felt like a super nerd at that point.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm all in, man.
Can you imagine Robert Downey Jr.? Oh man, dude.
I really hope
if he's not in Fantastic Four, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to rip my own hair out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be mad, like for real. I will actually be mad.
I mean, I don't really think he's gonna be in it personally.
I don't think he's gonna be a mainstay in it. But if I don't get to see him for the first time in that movie, I don't even care if it's a post-credit scene. If I don't get to walk out of that theater having gotten my first look at him as Doom, that will actually be a huge gripe with me with that movie.
Okay.
Like I'm not joking, because he's so iconically tied to that, like them as, I guess, characters.
Yeah.
I need my first glimpse. Not to mention, you're claiming Thunderbolts was a flop, which is ridiculous, by the way. We've talked about this in text. We haven't talked about ridiculous. It on the pod. I do. It made a profit, and it got some of the best reviews any of your projects have gotten in well over a year or two.
Yeah, but that's not what what defines a flop.
I get,
literally speaking.
I get your point, but my point is, to me, if it made a profit, it's not a flop. A flop is something that you don't get any returns on. They got returns on it, and it hasn't even been released fully on. It just got put out on streaming, and the physical, I don't even think the physical copies are out yet. So you're going to get even more returns when people are running up the numbers on streaming and buy. That's every movie nowadays. Unless it is a huge tentpole movie, I think your $1 billion box office days are pretty much gone. And I'm sorry, you could thank COVID for that. As soon as COVID hit and people realized that streaming actually is a decent alternative to going to the theater, that's why it was such a huge deal when Spider-Man No Way Home did it. That was why it was such a huge deal when Deadpool and Wolverine did it. Any movie...
Yeah, but that kind of shoots your argument in the foot. Because
no, it doesn't, because those were huge movies. Those were huge movies.
Yeah, well, I get that, but if you're saying those came after COVID. So
right, but that's what I said. Unless it is a tentpole movie, your $1 billion days, I think, are over.
Well, I don't think they're saying that it needed to be $1 billion, but it was way under what they projected to make.
Right, but that's also their own fault. Like, they have to take a step back.
Nobody's saying the movie is terrible.
No. I know you're not saying, and I don't know that anyone's saying that. I think most fans that I've seen have been like, "What in the world? Like, that's crazy."
Yeah.
But my point is, if I work at Marvel, despite what we've achieved, you got to put ego and pride aside, take a step out of your own shoes, and realize you have lost a ton of good faith with not only just the general audience, but the people in your own camp, like your own fan base, because they're so sick of some of what y'all have put out.
Yeah.
You were just sending me videos. I haven't even watched them yet, but videos of Daredevil Born Again, even, which was another more positively jaded, like if I had to pick, a lane of majority, I think majority of people liked it. And you sent me a video of someone completely bashing it and talking about how awful it was, and you said you agreed with them.
I agreed, yeah.
And I haven't seen Ironheart yet, but you sent me another video essay of someone talking about this is like an insane garbage pile from Marvel.
I think you would hate it too. I don't even think it's like...
I don't know. I'm not going to form an opinion, but I mean, I don't not believe you, because a lot of the stuff has kind of let me down.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing of it is, it's because of stuff like that makes me step back and be like, how do you see reactions to stuff like that and then think Thunderbolts was a flop just because it didn't make you hundreds of millions?
No. I don't think that's the way to look at it. Like when people say it's a flop, I think the point that they're showing is even their best movie right now is still under what they're projecting. So like you're right. I completely agree with everything you said. They need to take a step back and look at what they're doing. But nobody's saying that I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought there. I'm just saying I think a flop, just the literal definition is it's way under what they projected to get a return from. So I completely agree with you. That's a sign Marvel needs to be a little bit more. They need to take what's happening and to heart and consider that for what's going forward. Because even a movie as good as Thunderbolts and all the positive reviews it got and stuff, it still didn't do what they expected. Like, that should say something, and they need to stop putting out things like Ironheart, you know?
I guess, man. I don't know. It upsets me. But anyway, you were talking about, this all started with Superman. You were talking about a Marvel director, multiverse. You went to the comic book store. I'm trying to get you back on track.
Yeah. So then I just happened to pass by a video on this Comic Books Explained, because after I saw the comic in Barnes & Noble, I remembered that YouTube channel, and I was like, I want to see what this is about now. So I started looking up the Secret Wars on Comics Explained, the YouTube channel, and this morning, I was just waiting on you to get here, because you're always late. No, I'm just kidding. You're never late. You're super early. I was just earlier. But I was looking through the videos that he has, and there was a handful of them about Superman in the Marvel universe, and then there was one especially that said every time Superman appeared in a Spider-Man issue, and I went like, wait a second, James Gunn is directing this Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Are they setting it up to do a DC Marvel crossover in this like Secret Wars type thing?
I'm not gonna say that's impossible. I don't think it would happen this early, because I think James would want a little more of his stuff established. Like, for sure, he'd want a Batman, and I don't think there's a Batman at all in this Superman movie.
But maybe as late as next year.
Maybe, and part of the reason I say that is because, first of all, I think he's been flat out asked about like, would he ever collab with Feige and Marvel and like doing it, because there had been like a very small but notable handful of times where the heads of Marvel and DC Comics have come together and agreed that they were going to do like this big multiversal thing where like characters show up in each other's things, and they do, and it's actually happening again like right now. They're ramping into it. Like, there's a Batman and Deadpool one coming out, and a couple others that I cannot think of.
It's happening right now.
Yeah, like they're ramping up into another one right now. But
the signs are all there, my friend.
But I think it would take a lot. Like it would.
I don't think it would.
The right story would need to be there.
I agree with that. But if they don't have to do it in a really big way. They could just have Superman just show up and everyone's like, whoa, what? You know, in like the multiverse or something, and just hint. And then they could build towards it in the future. That would be a way to bring DC way back up there.
I mean, it's very possible. And I will say this. I mean, as far as you talking about James Gunn specifically being the one doing it, I do think there's more of a chance of it ever happening now than back when Snyder was running it, because Snyder's DC stuff would not have fit with Marvel. From what I've seen of just this one DC movie that James Gunn is doing, it does look visually and just tonally like it would fit a lot more with what they do over at Marvel.
Yeah, I agree with that. And one of the reasons I had this epiphany is because I don't know if you remember when we used to do an old podcast. I think this is when I forgot about this. We did a podcast, just me and you.
Yeah, we did one where we were talking about books.
Yeah.
We were going through The Name of the Wind.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And then we did one with a group, the Mega Media Nerds.
Yeah, I remember the Mega Media Nerds, but I forgot the one that I think we talked about this in our Just Me and You podcast before, when we were speculating about if No Way Home was going to have the multiversal Spider-Verse characters in it. And you said, guess who's directing the new Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness? Sam Raimi.
Oh.
And that was a nod toward what was coming. And I'm just like, wait, but James Gunn is directing this new Superman.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's very possible. I'm definitely not. I actually think it's more, like I said, more possible now than ever before.
Yeah.
And like I said, they are gearing up into another big comic book crossover now.
Well, what if Doctor Doom doesn't show up in Fantastic Four, but Superman does? How would that make you feel?
I would still be mad.
Really?
Yeah, I would still be mad, especially because like you won't give me Doom, but you'll give me Superman. What?
I think it would be a subversion of expectations.
Oh, it would
in a good way, but
no,
you think in a bad way.
No, that would really grind my gears.
That's crazy. To me, that would be like, I'd be like, what? I did not see this coming.
Here's what I'm dying for. I need something. I need to either see him in the costume or I need one line delivery. I need something. I'm mostly over the fence, but I need something to get that last leg over to convince me that RDJ as Doom was not just a desperation move.
I see what you're saying.
I need something to sell me. And if there was ever a better time to introduce him, what better time before Avengers Doomsday than the Fantastic Four movie?
Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, anyway.
I'm totally with you.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Do you think Superman's going to have a post-credit scene?
I don't know. I'm 50-50 on it. But if it does, that will be a hint to me that because DC has historically avoided post-credit scenes because in more recent, most of the Snyder films don't, because I think that they were trying to basically say we're not Marvel. So like I don't remember any post-credit scenes in the Snyder movies.
Pretty sure most of the big ones have them.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the last Batman with Pattinson that came out.
Well, that wasn't a Snyder film.
I know that wasn't a Snyder film, but I'm just saying that I don't remember any post-credit scenes in the DC Snyderverse.
And that one was the scene of the Riddler in Arkham Asylum when he meets the Joker. Was that a post-credit scene? Or was that the end of the movie?
I think that was just the end of the movie.
Okay. You might be right.
I hated that so much.
I did too. I thought it was way too early and unnecessary to bring in. That movie stood on its own to me without needing any reference to the Joker.
Yeah, I am so sick of the Joker.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
like,
don't get me wrong. If you're gonna have an established Batman series franchise, whatever, I do think you need one, and it needs to be a good one, especially if the Batman is good. But can we just prove that the character of Batman can just exist for a little bit without the Joker? I mean,
yeah,
he needs one at some point, but like, to me, in the Dark Knight trilogy, it felt earned because the whole first movie had nothing to do with him. And then at the very end, they hinted at him, and it gave them time to find a really good, in hindsight, legendary, iconic Joker that, by the way, everyone hated when he was cast.
Really?
Everyone hated the Heath Ledger casting.
Really?
Hated it.
I didn't even know that.
They were talking trash about it from the jump. And then the movie came out and everyone was like, we're just going to do this forever. like that's just going to be the Joker from now on.
Yeah.
Like, he is him. But like, you remember the movie? I mean, I know it's been years ago. It's like 2008. But do you remember the movie posters? You'd go into like Walmart and you'd see, and it'd be like his kind of outline of his face with the red smeared and the Why So Serious. People were like, man, this is so dumb. Like, that doesn't even look anything like him. And blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And then, lo and behold, now, like you have alluded to many times on this show, that is like the Joker now.
Yeah. I'm so sick of it. It's like, guys, you're already just redoing superhero movies, which has been done before, which, it's fine I understand how comics work. That's a very big comic thing, and you're doing comic book movies. But like, you're already redoing something. Can you at least put a little bit of your own spin? We get it. The Joker was great. Heath Ledger did a great job.
Yeah.
Let's do something new. What unique things are the actors that you have available to you? What unique things do they bring to the table?
Yeah.
And I did not like the way the Riddler was portrayed in the Batman movie at all. I really hated his Riddler.
See, that to me, that's unfair, because I feel like you just said that you wanted them to put their own spin on it, and then I think what I liked the most about the Riddler in that movie is that they put a different spin on him than he usually is. And
I prefer that to another Joker. I'll give you that.
Well, fair.
I mean, I'm happy that they're at least trying that, but it didn't. I don't think it worked.
I think it fit very well with today's climate. Like, if you're online, if you're chronically online the way I am, sadly, that like really resonated.
Yeah, but it's like, I get what you're saying, and I realize that this is not going to be received the right way because I don't really know how to articulate what I'm feeling when it comes to that. But I'm also like, I go to movies for a break from some of that stuff.
That's fair.
I don't, and I understand like you want to make it relevant to the culture, but to me, it was just more of the like online losers kind of thing.
And
like,
that's what it was. I
yeah,
mean, it was extremists
yeah.
that are online taking something to a level that was ridiculous.
But also the thing about it is, for the vast majority of people online are extremists because they're online. They don't do things in real life because they're hiding behind a screen.
That's true and fair. But I think the whole point was like how Batman is meant to kind of be like a symbol that like.
That's what I hated about it, though. But go ahead.
But I was just saying, to me, that like the Riddler was taking that page out of Batman's book and becoming like that leading symbol for those guys to like get out and do something about it in a horrible way. But I'm just saying it was like that mirroring, like parallel.
But I hate that though, because they're the message that they're basically sending is Batman, someone like Batman who goes out and beats up criminals, really bad guys, and gets them arrested, who is trying to do the right thing. He could potentially spark a group of incels to come up and like, that was the message. It's one of the reasons I hated it. And then at the end, he was like, I can't be vengeance. I have to be more than that. It's like, there's already fire and rescue, dude. The coolest thing about you is you beat the crap out of criminals. That's what's so awesome about Batman.
Well,
and
go ahead.
In real life, that's never going to make someone like the Riddler. It would never happen because the people who are extremists online are that way because they're online. That's the reason they're like that. You meet them in person and they're cowards.
I agree with that, which is where I will say that to me, that is where you go to that movie and get a break from real life, because that's not real life at all.
Yeah, but the message behind it was to be like, this is what could happen if a Batman was around,
I'll put it like this. I've learned long ago I'm never going to change your mind on something. But
you've changed my mind before.
But I will say this. And I appreciate that.
You have.
I think you got the message that is trying to be delivered, but I think maybe you took it a little the wrong way. Like, it's not that you got the wrong message, because you're actually, what they're saying is that him being around kind of sparked up these like certain villains popping up. And I mean, even in the comics, like that is kind of accurate. Like, here's the thing. The thing that's really interesting about Batman and most of his rogues gallery is that they're all crazy. Like, they're all actually institutionally insane. But kind of so is he. He's just not. He toes a line, like he has a code, like a moral code, and they don't. And a lot of his like villains and stuff are actually tied to him in some way or another in a lot of the versions of the comics or what have you, just because of that. Like, it's an interesting parallel to explore of like, it's two sides of the same coin. They're both kind of crazy, but like, this is what a good version of that looks like. Like someone who can tuck every single emotion away and just become this stoic figure of like justice, and like a person who just is like pure id. Like,
I mean, I don't read the comics, but I've never gotten that impression from Batman that he's,
again, this is like a super like deep dive, reach, stretch kind of thing to like pull meaning out of something that is essentially dudes running around punching each other. Like, I mean, I do think the philosophy is there.
Maybe, but my impression of Batman, and this is mostly coming from Christopher Nolan's, which, by the way, I did not like I've talked about this before.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight, I think, is an overrated movie. Heath Ledger was phenomenal, and I watched that movie just for his performance. But like the message at the end that you're going to lie that you killed Harvey Dent so that you can preserve, like, that's not heroic. That's evil. And the idea behind Batman from the beginning, I thought, was, well, I'm this billionaire and I don't really know how to affect change in my Bruce Wayne persona. and the city's a terrible place. So I'm going to do it in the way that I know how. I'm going to try to make a difference. It wasn't this like I'm clinically insane and I need to, I get what you're saying. But
it's more that he doesn't come out and like say that, of course. But I mean, it's more the implicate. Like it would take someone to be pretty far gone to do the things that he does. I mean,
I don't think so. This has happened before. There's a superhero named Phoenix Jones in Seattle. Have you not heard of this? He's not around anymore. He was.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I mean, he actually. This is no joke. Now I do think some of the stories about him are a little embellished, but he was a real dude who would go break up street fights. He would stop. I think he tried to stop drug deals and stuff like that. And he had a superhero costume. He was a UFC fighter. And he actually had a comic book store owner let him have a secret passage in the comic book store where he would go change and then come out and patrol the night and stuff. So,
you don't think that's a little crazy?
As I was telling you, I was like, I think Chris has a point. You changed my mind.
I mean, look, that's awesome. That's awesome, but it's a little crazy.
Yeah.
And that's a dude. That's a dude.
Not clinically insane though.
No, but that's also like, you know how like there's like sugar and then there's like sugar light.
And
there's like
spice and everything nice.
Yeah, there's like something and then something light. Like that's Batman light. Like that's not what Batman does. Like Batman, any Batman fan will tell you if you ask them who is the real character.
Shady.
Yeah. Will you please stand up? If you ask them who's the real like persona, they'll all tell you Batman. Like it's like Batman runs everything. Bruce Wayne is the thing he slips into. He's completely dissociated from his real life identity. He firmly believes he is Batman. He is even mentioned in comics how like he talks to the other guy in his head, the other guy being Bruce. Like Bruce is not who's in charge. Bruce barely exists.
Why were you making this point to begin with? Because it was about the Riddler or something?
Because you were saying you didn't like the message that the Batman was sending, that movie was sending with the Riddler. And my point was that I think you got the right message, but maybe took it the wrong way, because when he says like, I need to be something more than vengeance, that doesn't mean he's going to stop doing what he's doing. He's just, throughout that movie, if you notice, no one calls him Batman. They literally all call him Vengeance. The villains, the cops, the civilians, the newspaper, they call him like he doesn't even have a name. He's just
that's really cool.
It is really cool, but he doesn't want. He wants to put fear into bad people's hearts and minds. He wants to frighten them.
That's what he was doing.
But he wants the normal people to feel like he's making them safe because of what he went through as a child. He doesn't want anyone to feel like that again. And like at the end, when he was helping like kids like get out of the water and like hand them off to the fire rescue and stuff, like he realized that he has to be more than just vengeance. Like to do both sides of what he wants to do, he has to be more than that.
We'll see in the sequel, because if in the sequel he's still beating the crap out of criminals and he's doing that, then I'll be okay with it. But that's not the message that I got from the film.
He absolutely will be beating the crap out of criminals.
We'll see.
I promise you.
I think he's going to be a little dainty.
I will bet you money on that.
I'm not going to do that. But
well, it's actually interesting that we're kind of tying up right there with the Batman thing, because there were multiple Batman actors in one of the movies I watched. But we're coming up on our first hour, so we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Independence Day and the Patriot in honor of July 4th.
That's right.
Welcome back. Is that what you were trying to do? Welcome back for hour 2 of the show. Like I said at the beginning, it's July 4th as we record this, so on theme. Last week we had discussed maybe watching some patriotic movies and discussing them or whatever, and then through the course of conversation we found out that I haven't seen anything ever. Just nothing.
It's really very sad.
I got fired. It was actually really nice of him to let me back on today, to get a chance to somewhat redeem myself. But yeah, so today what we're doing for the last hour here is I watched over the last day and a half The Patriot with Mel Gibson
And the Joker.
and Independence Day. So we're going to talk about those, and I think this is going to be more of a bit of a Q&A style, because when I do this, I really don't know where to begin. So I kind of just defer to Daniel and let him guide me through it, because he's, seen them.
All right.
But we are going to start with Independence Day and just get through that, because I'm not saying you don't like it, but his first,
No, I do like it.
His first that's what I'm saying. But his first recommendation, and the one he's most excited to hear me talk about, is The Patriot. So we're gonna kind of just get through Independence Day, and we'll get into it. Before we get started, I want to say one thing that kind of touches on both movies here. For all my Chuck heads out there, and if you don't know what Chuck is, you're missing out. Actually, I think all the seasons of it are on Prime for free.
Oh.
You need to watch Chuck. It was a fantastic show that came out in the early 2000s, every Wednesday night on NBC. Great show. Zachary Levi, Alex Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin.
Was it Alec? I thought Alec was the really, really famous one who's on SNL and stuff.
Oh, I didn't realize you were talking about a different person.
Yeah, Alex.
I didn't know there was an Alex Baldwin.
Yeah, he's in Chuck. He's actually the reason I'm even bringing this up. That man plays like an absolute patriot in that show. Turns out he's just been a patriot his whole life, because he was in Independence Day and The Patriot.
Was he really? Who did he play in both?
In The Patriot, he is the colonist who goes to join the British Army and gives them information on.
Yeah.
And in Independence Day, he's one of the colonel people in the
That's right.
military.
I didn't know that was his name.
Yeah, he's in both movies and Chuck and other stuff, I'm sure. So
But he wasn't a patriot in The Patriot, ironically.
No, he wasn't. So shouts out to my man, Chuck. Great show. Go watch it. You will absolutely love it. It is hilarious. It's got action. It's got romance. It's got it all. It's got plot twists and nerd stuff. So, what more could you ask for?
This is just a really completely off the cuff. I'm just going to say this and we're going to move on. When we need to redo our top comedies episode, because I left out Galaxy Quest. What a fantastic comedy. Anyway, there's zero actors or anything related at all to what we're talking about. Aliens. That's what made it pop into my head, because Independence Day.
And Alan Rickman from Harry Potter.
That's true. Never mind. I hate the film. I like Alan Rickman a lot, actually. But anyway, Independence Day. So just give me your overview. What are your thoughts? All right, let's move on to The Patriot.
One of these days I'm going to start seeing that coming.
All right, but for real, what were your thoughts on Independence Day? And he's drinking. That's excellent timing. I really love Chris, guys. I'm so mean. I don't know why. I'm not even like that to you when we're not on the podcast.
No.
I don't know why I do this.
You're just in character.
I guess so. I'm just trying to make jokes, and for some reason they're always at your expense. I'm trying to change. I'm trying to become a better person.
That's fine.
Okay.
So overall, really enjoyed the movie. You're pretty run of the mill, doomsday scenario. The world's gonna end. High stakes, massive tentpole action movie. I can see why it's considered a classic. Definitely some rah America stuff in there, so I can see why it's considered one of the like iconic, like patriotic films of all time. Do you remember how high up it was on that list you looked up at the end of
I
last?
think it was number 13
Okay,
out of
I thought it was
20.
higher. I thought it was higher up than that. Because I remember you scrolling and being like, "It's not on this list," and then like way later, you're like, "Oh, it is on the list." I thought it was like top 5. But anyway,
No, it started with 1 and then went down.
oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
So yeah, loved it in that regard. Like as far as just like a movie as a whole and a big action film, it was really great. Very much in my Q zone.
What's a Q zone?
It's just an I think you should leave reference. And
now I'm getting a taste of my own medicine. I'm much deserved.
Wait, do you think I was actually saying I think you should leave?
Yeah.
Oh no. No, I think you should leave is a show on Netflix.
Oh. Okay.
No, it's just a reference how I think you should get the heck out of here. No, it's a show on Netflix that is extremely quotable, but not a lot of people have seen it, clearly. And yeah, it's just a reference.
You somehow have seen, because we have this discussion a lot where I bring up these movies and I'm like, you've never seen this?
And it's like a classic. Everyone and their mother has seen it.
But you've seen all the movies that no one else has seen, apparently. Because you like Chuck, I mean, I guess a lot of people have
seen it. A lot of people have not seen Chuck.
Yeah, I've never even heard of it.
I've never had a... What? I thought we've talked about it.
When we talked about I know about it now, because we talked about it on the podcast before.
You introduced you to Chuck?
Yeah. I had never even heard about it.
Wow. Wow. Okay. That shocks me.
I didn't even realize Zachary Levi had been an established actor for that long.
Man. Yeah, Chuck is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do tend to see a lot of like weird niche things, and then everything that's like, you definitely have seen this. No. Absolutely not. So, like I said, overall positive thoughts on Independence Day. I will say, and this is just a me thing. I'm well aware that what I'm about to dive into is me nitpicking a movie that is about aliens invading Earth. Well aware. So don't even come at me. This is a me thing. But it's something I've noticed in all these like disaster film style like epics. The Godzillas and the King Kongs and the Independence Days and the yada yada, the yada yada. Obviously, the whole movie, most of the time, they feel like it can't be just about stopping this massive threat. So what do? They bring you to the ground level throughout bits of the movie and try and connect you to characters on the ground level to like give you more of the story, and then they'll go back up in the air to give you like the action and the we got to stop Godzilla or King Kong or whatever. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't think those movies need that, because I can't think of an example of one that didn't have it that I was like, that was really good. So I'm not going to say that. What I will say is this. If you're going to go out of your way to characterize somebody and give them a story and try and make me care about them, when really the whole movie is about a giant alien ship coming to basically massacre Earth, why would you do that and then immediately make them do something against the few things you've shown me that make up that character? So, like, for example, in Independence, I don't know how long it's been since you've seen Independence Day.
It's been a while.
But, by the way, Bill Pullman, who we recently fell in love with his son in Thunderbolts, was the president in that movie. So that was really cool. Great cast in that movie. Jeff Goldblum, Bill Pullman, Will Smith, Vivica Fox. I mean, it goes on. But great cast. So Bill Pullman plays the president of the United States. He's got a wife who's in like a whole other country when all the ruckus starts, and he's with his daughter, little girl. I'm not ignorant to the fact that I get they set up near the beginning of the story that he was a fighter pilot before he was the president. At some point in his younger life, in his younger days, he was a fighter pilot. I get it. But throughout most of his time on screen, he's portrayed as a pretty reserved, thoughtful, responsible president and a caring husband and father. His wife, throughout the course of the movie, look, I'm just also, I mean, these are like almost 30-year-old films, but spoiler warning in case you haven't seen The Patriot and Independence Day. But we're gonna deep dive here. So throughout the course of the film and the course of events or whatever, his wife, who was supposed to get airlifted to a safe location, she never made it. She gets picked up coincidentally by Will Smith's girlfriend in the movie, blah, 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 blah. By the time they reunite, his wife has had internal bleeding for an extensive amount of time. And the doctors basically, it's like this really happy moment because they're like, oh, you're here. Thank God you're alive. And then the doctor's like, yeah, by the way, she's like about to die. Like, if we could have got to her sooner, maybe we could have done something. And I'm kind of like at that point, then why even? I think it's weird to like be like, oh, we're reuniting them for like a second. And then that's it. And maybe that was just, they thought that would hit harder than just her dying. I don't know. But I thought it was kind of dumb. I didn't like that. But what I didn't like even more was that he goes and sits by her side. She passes away. All he has left is his daughter. They are in the midst of like their final plan. Jeff Goldblum's character has an idea on how to shut down the shields on all the ships so that they actually stand a chance at fighting these guys. And after the president gives like this, rousing speech to all the pilots about to take off, and he jumps down and starts putting on the gear to go up there with them. Why? Why? I mean, their secure location that had the vice president and the joint chiefs had already been destroyed earlier in the film. So there's no immediate backup to the president. I mean, there might be like 17 steps down from like the where it would actually go, but like there's no top 3 to 5 spots, like that would actually be ready to step in his shoes that are alive. So they're all gone. His wife is gone. All he has left is his daughter, but he's going to put himself in this situation where he's more likely to die or at least get hurt than just staying with her while hundreds of these other pilots go. Like, I get it. It's like, again, it's like a real rah-rah moment of like, yeah, the president's going to go with us. Like, I'm leading the charge. I get it. And in like a movie like The Patriot, where they do similar things, like the leaders of these armies kind of actually lead them on the back. Like, it makes sense, but also none of them were the president. Well, I mean, there wasn't a president back then, but I mean, you get what I'm saying. Like, they were leaders of the army. They're meant to go do that. But in this context of independence, it made no sense. None. Like,
do you think it was less the fact that he was the president and it was more all the setup before that? Like, if the vice president was still around, if they had explained that he had a military background with air experience and he was maybe one of the only people who could help, like,
I'll put it like, yes, if it was like, they did set up all the stuff of him having a military background and being a fighter pilot, like all of that, I understood that.
Okay, I don't remember much about that in the film.
Yeah,
so.
Oh, they did. Yeah, he was a fighter pilot. They established all of that early in the film. But not only was he not one of the only people, there were tons of people that came, not to mention all the other countries around the world like geared up to go do the same thing. But there were tons of people that came. But yes, also he knew the vice president and everyone had already died. He knew that if he died, there's like no leader for the country of whoever survives this battle. Not to mention, more than all of that, he would be leaving his daughter behind with no parents. That is the thing that, to me, I'm like, all you've shown me about this man is that he cares first and foremost about his family, and you expect me to believe that right after his wife just died in front of him, he's going to leave his daughter to go fight in the sky?
That's what I'm saying, is like all the buildup behind his character and stuff before that. Like, that's probably what soured it for you rather
Yeah,
than the
like-
actual act of the president doing it.
The way they wrote it, like, it just didn't feel believable.
Yeah.
It just didn't. And again, that's a me thing. That's a me kind of gripe, because I'm already not a huge fan of, in these huge, massive disaster films, going down to the street level to, like, you try and make me care about a few characters, because you know right off the rip which of them are going to live and which of them are going to die, because the ones that they're like clearly the leads of their little individual story threads are going to live, because they're the ones who are going to save the day. And then a lot of the people around them are going to die, because they want you to see people die that you kind of care about, so that it hits harder. I mean, it's kind of like, to me, it's my version of Kryptonite on Superman. It's boring. Like that's boring. Like you know right from the jump who's getting it and who's not.
That's not always true. I generally agree with that, but there's a couple things that I want to say on that. But before I do, what did you think of the scene? 'Cause the most iconic scene from that movie is when the dude gets slammed up against the glass and the alien starts like talking through him. I think that's what happens. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the scientist.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What-
I mean, that was intense.
Yeah.
That was really intense. I liked that. I thought it was a cool reveal that they could communicate that way, like through using people, but like super violently. It was pretty cool.
Definitely made you afraid of him.
Yeah, I mean, they were. I mean, for especially for the time. I mean, that was 96. That movie's older than The Patriot, which is crazy.
That movie scared the mess out of me. That scene in particular when I was little.
It was intense. I will say, it was kind of hard to be afraid of them after Will Smith punched one in the face.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's your first. It's not like it wasn't even like it was the first time you see one, and it was almost like a jump scare, because it's like coming out of the ship, and then he just goes bam. He goes, "Welcome to Earth." I was like, all right, I'm kind of not afraid of them anymore, because that was awesome.
Yeah.
But
That is fair.
But yes, that was intense. That was a really cool scene, and it was intense. I would disagree. So it's funny you use that terminology, by the way, iconic, because I was going to tell you what I think the most iconic scene in that movie is. And this is not like based on like me just knowing, like, this is just my opinion. Like, I just think it's an iconic shot, is Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum walking through the desert smoking cigars with a crashed alien ship behind them after they just saved Earth. Like, to me, that was an iconic shot. That was cool.
Definitely.
That was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's probably more iconic too. But that scene was like disturbing for a lot of people.
No, like for sure. It was one of the probably most intense scenes in the whole thing.
Yeah. So to what you said, I generally agree. I like that they do that on the ground level, but I don't think they rarely do it well, because there's a reason behind that. If you study like storytelling and stuff, like there's a phrase that storytellers use. I think I heard James Patterson say this, but I think it's like a commonly repeated phrase. It's like, if a man or a queen, no, what is it? A king of a powerful nation dies, and his queen dies 6 months later, is a plot. But a king of a powerful nation dies, and a queen dies 6 months later of a broken heart, is a story. Like that's the phrase. It's something like that. I might have butchered it, but
I get what I mean. I get it, and I like that.
Yeah, and that it's powerful because it's true. It's like, and I was gonna say an example of a disaster movie that actually did this really well was War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise, and the reason that they did it is because, like, they showed you how they showed you their relationships. You actually don't know who's gonna die. You think no one actually ends up dying, which is kind of interesting. But you don't know who's going to die, but you know what his struggles are as a person, first and foremost, before the disaster even begins. And he's struggling as a father, like he's a really bad dad who's trying to do better. And it becomes less about the invasion and more about how is this invasion going to help him learn to be a good father.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I thought it was done really well. Like, that's a pretty good movie. But yeah, I guess that's all I was going to say is like the reason that they do that is because they're trying to build a story. But the I think that the way you worded it is telling, because most of the time the movie is sold as like, there's this huge big event. This is what the movie's about. But then they try to make it so much about the characters on a ground level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think they get it wrong. It's like, you should just make it about the characters. Like, I don't think you should make it about the event. You should make it about the characters. And then the events that happen will speak for themselves, you know?
That's a fair point. I don't disagree. I know why they don't do it that way, because that doesn't sell tickets.
Yeah, for like they want to show big explosions,
Right.
and yeah.
But I get it, and I like that. That's a good point.
Lord of the Rings does this very, very well.
Yeah, that
You know?
and that's actually a great example, because I don't think anyone would look at Lord of the Rings in the same light that they look at like an Independence Day, but it actually is similar. The stakes are just as high, but it's more through the lens of the characters.
Yeah, it's more.
So-
it's specifically the lens of these tiny little creatures called hobbits.
Yeah,
That's one of the things that Tolkien wanted to do, is how are these little guys
going to have any effect on this massive world event? Yeah, yep. And I think that's why he intentionally wrote them to be so lethargic and kind of lazy and just frolicky, and all they care about is food. Like it speaks even more volumes when a group of them actually end up having a huge impact.
Yeah,
yeah. So that,
dude, I love Lord of the Rings.
I'm just glad I've seen them.
Yeah, me too. Otherwise, this conversation would just totally reek.
It would almost be like that's falling on deaf ears.
Yeah.
Almost.
What?
But yeah, so that was just it's a gripe.
Yeah.
Admittedly a nitpick, but I had a lot of fun with that movie.
Yeah. That's how I look at it. It's a fun movie. It's
Yeah.
not like a world class, like you're gonna be sucked in and like you're gonna cry. It's just a fun rally together movie, you know?
For what it did specifically, I probably enjoyed it more than The Patriot. Enjoyed it more. We'll get into it, but
I can't be friends with you.
you got to understand, we've had this discussion. I'm going to say the same thing that I said to you in another video that we did, where I watched a movie that you loved that I had not seen.
What movie was that? Are you going to say it? Because you just stopped talking.
Well, I just felt like that would give it away. But I mean, if you want to go ahead and was that like your only Independence Day related?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, you're going to tell me once we talk
right,
about
like
The
I'm going to
Patriot.
get more into it.
I thought you were telling me, like, I'm going to tell you this. Like you were telling me right now.
Right, okay. I
you just
gotcha,
stopped
okay.
talking.
Yeah.
It's
No,
like,
I'm going to get into it, but I didn't know if we were done with Independence Day or not.
you just stopped and stared at me. I was like, yes. And? That was funny. I don't have much else to add on Independence Day other than like, it's not really it's a fun movie. That's kind of how I feel about it. There's not really much depth to it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's deep.
It was kind of cool when that guy sacrificed himself to save everyone.
That was so cool.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Yeah.
I love, and it makes me really wonder, like did he? That's another thing I hated about that movie was
instantly I loved that. You know what? Actually, this is another thing I despise.
It's again. Oh my god!
If you enjoyed, if you're digging on it this much or ragging on it this much, and you enjoyed it more than The Patriot, that makes me scared.
I think you're taking those words, and we'll get into it. I liked The Patriot.
Okay,
we'll get into it. There's a reason I specifically kind of paused and thought for the right word. Enjoy, I think, is a good word.
Okay.
But I can like something that I don't necessarily enjoy. Like, I can appreciate something I don't enjoy in a movie sense.
Oh, my gosh.
But we'll talk about it. But that was another thing I thought was really stupid in the movie, was that, like, these people, like, were, like, in one of the first scenes that you meet that dude, he's, like, in a diner, and he's getting made fun of because, like, he's telling all these people in this community that he was abducted by aliens and blah 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 blah. And then the ships come, and I was like, oh, that was cool. Like, that's a cool flip on that. But then, like, it never changes throughout the rest of the movie. Like, those people get interviewed, and they still are making fun of him on the interview where the news people are there because there's an alien invasion and they're still like, yeah, he said he got abducted by aliens. Like, that dude's a psycho. And then like when he goes to help all the pilots and he's like, yes, sir, I'm here because, I was abducted by aliens a while back and it, it'd be nice to get some payback. And they're just like looking at him like, okay, like, dude, you're in the middle of an alien invasion. Like, it would be a lot different if this was just like a normal war and he was like, yeah, I have a lot of combat experience from when I fought off aliens back. Like, okay, like that's funny. But like, he's literally telling you he was abducted by the things that are above you right now.
Yeah.
And you're looking at him like, okay, right, dude. I'm sure you were aliens. Okay.
I completely agree with that. I don't even remember that about the film, but that's ridiculous. Like in reality, if an alien invasion had happened, he would be the first one people would be going to and be like, all right, tell us about the experience.
Do you remember anything?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And instead they're all treating him like a moron. Yeah. And I'm like, and then he saves the day too. Like he literally gives the final blow that saves the day.
Do you think at his funeral they were like, look, we really appreciate what he did, but that guy was out of his mind.
That guy was crazy. Like, can we all agree? Aliens? I mean, I don't know, man. That was really dumb writing. But
yeah, again,
it's not a deep film. Like, it's one of those ones that if you could just turn your brain off and have fun, that's a great movie.
Yeah,
that is a great. And I'm glad I watched it in the summer too. Like that just feels. I mean, it helps that it's a July 4th movie and it's July 4th, but. That's just a summer movie. Like, you just throw that on like a summer evening and sit down with like some snacks and just go to town. Like that's a fun one.
Yeah.
Cannot believe I haven't seen that. Actually, I can believe I haven't seen that because it would have really frightened me some years ago.
Yeah, it freaked me out as a kid.
Yeah, like that is one. There's some movies that I look back and I'm like, why didn't my parents just show, like Back to the Future? I'm like, why was I never shown these? Like, they're not scary. There's nothing bad in them. They
didn't let you watch them?
Not that they, like, actively forbade it, but they just... neither of my parents are, like, super big into movies. And so, like, even though I would always want to see movies, they were always like, nah. Or, like, if we ever did, it was like, we'd go to Blockbuster. That used to be a thing, kids. It was a whole brick and mortar shop dedicated to renting out movies, kind of like a library, but cooler. We would go to Blockbuster and they would like let us pick out, like, me and my sister each could pick one movie and they had to approve it. So it was always like one of the newer Pixar movies that had just come out or something like that. It was never any like Star Wars or,
What a shame.
Yeah. That's why I haven't seen a lot of those.
Dude, I used to hit up Blockbuster and Hollywood Video like it was going out of style.
Oh my God, I think there was a Hollywood Video in the Walmart shopping center in Lexington, which is now like the Buffalo Wild Wings over there. I think that used to be a Hollywood Video, and the Blockbuster used to be the building that was. It's now like a pet food store, but it was in between what is now Cookout and then a Walgreens, and there's a building there. It used to be a Blockbuster, but now it's like a pet shop. Crazy.
Dude, I'd also rent video games and I would get magazines with cheat codes on them.
Yeah.
Those were the days, man.
Yeah. Then they would sell candy.
Oh yeah.
You go in there and get you like some Pop Rocks or some chocolate.
I would get popcorn and Bunch of Crunch and mix them together and watch a film on a Friday night.
Yeah. I still do that at the theater. I get like a popcorn.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same. But I get Bunch of Crunch and I'll like throw a bunch in my mouth and then just salty popcorn all behind it. That's like my favorite thing at the theater.
Yeah.
That, and I used to love a good, nice, cold Coke with it, but now Regal has switched to Pepsi products, so I got to go with a Mountain Dew. But anyway, yeah, that's a fun movie. I enjoyed it. I think it was a lot, like I said, in my Q zone, is a lot more in my Q zone than the Patriot was, just because I love a good, fun, like, action movie. And
I despise your Q zone.
There's more to it, but I guess we'll move on to the Patriot.
Okay, I mean, I'm glad that you liked the Patriot, but I'm already a little sad because if you were to ask me comparatively, the Patriot or Independence Day, I mean, it would be no question. If you're comparing the two, I would despise Independence Day as much as Harry Potter in comparison to The Patriot. The Patriot is, oh my gosh. Oh, I was gonna say, when you mentioned Back to the Future, remember last week we were talking about like what qualifies as like a patriotic movie versus like a classic American film, which is obviously most films are made in America, but there are some that are really iconic to the culture, even if it's not America themed.
Right.
Back to the Future, in my opinion, is one of those very classic. I mean, 80s America. It's like really iconic.
Oh yeah.
I was just thinking that when you said that. It's like I would count that as.
I think we brought that up.
Did we bring it Back to the Future?
I think.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Those films are so good. They're
they're
much
great.
fun.
I've only seen them once, but I enjoyed them.
Yeah, they're awesome. All right, so The Patriot. Tell us why you hate America. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh man. I will say there was actually a scene in there that kind of made
you mad.
Yeah,
man. I want to hear what it is because there's not I think that film is immaculate. I mean, just exquisite. The peak of filmmaking. This isn't even because of my I'm very America. But just a well-written film. Like the way the protagonist and antagonist interact with each other and how they constantly cause each other to do other things that drive the story forward, and like the stakes, the way they establish Benjamin Martin at the very beginning, and then the thing that he wants to avoid the most keeps happening to him. It's just really good character development, and I just think it's such a well-written film, and the cinematography, the outfits, I mean, all of it. It just was a really well-done, well-made film. But I'll let you. So first off, give me your overall thoughts, and then secondly, tell me what that scene was that you didn't like.
Okay. So overall, I would agree with pretty much everything you just said. Amazing writing. The atmosphere that they built with that movie, like you said, going down to like the set design, the outfits, and they didn't just have good costumes. Like they looked so really worn. Like some of them were dirty. Like the higher up officers, like kept pretty clean, but then like the soldiers, like they looked kind of grungy and worn. The battle sequences, phenomenal. Other than like the straight up like standing in a line, firing at each other, like those were pretty gruesome. And I am well aware that is actually how war was done back then. So I mean, I'm cool with it. Like it was accurate, but it was a little boring. But they made up for it by like showing some of the gruesomeness from doing war that way. Which I'm not saying I need gore to like sell me, but I'm just saying like it did a good job of balancing the reality of war with like not doing too much. Like I will say the scene where the cannonball gets shot and bounces off the ground and then just takes that dude's head off. Like it wasn't overly gory, but just the sight of it happening, I was like, oh, like me, my dad, and my brother all went, oh my gosh, like out loud. We all like exclaimed.
You all watched it together?
Well, yeah. So I have family in town right now, and this is part of the reason that I kind of put this off to such the last minute. But I had told them we went to dinner last night, and I told them I wasn't going to be able to come over to the place they're staying at because I needed to prep for this podcast. I was like, I really need to go ahead and get a jump on these movies because I don't know how long they are, and I need to knock them both out. And they were like, you could come over if you want, and you should put it on the TV there. So I did, and it was kind of late already. It was like 9:30 when we got there, and so like my sister ended up passing out, my mom ended up passing out, my grandmother ended up kind of in and out. My aunt really had no interest, like she wasn't asleep, but she had no real interest in the movie, I don't think. But my dad, my brother, and me were the only three there that were like awake, and it kind of ended up just my dad wasn't even really there to watch it. It just kind of got him, like it hooked him.
Have neither of them seen this movie?
No.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah, it was a really cool moment for me to be able to watch it with them because it was three of us that have never seen it. all three of us really ended up loving it. Like, we ended up talking about it after we watched it, just because we were like, man, that was like really good. But when that happened, when the cannonball thing happened, my dad, that was when I like really realized that my dad was like actually watching, because I was like, we were kind of over to the side and he was kind of in another part of the room. And when that happened and I heard him go, oh my gosh, I was like, So, because as I've stated on here multiple times, like, my parents are just not big into movies. They'll watch them if you like, just do what I did last night, just put one on. It'll usually end up hooking them. Or like if I like beg them and I'm like, y'all have to see this. Eventually I can wear them down, but they're not big on movies. So it was cool that it hooked him, and my brother said he wanted to watch it with me, so that was cool. But anyway,
and that's one of those movies that stands the test of time. Like, it doesn't feel like you're watching an old movie.
Actually, it did, but in the best way.
I know exactly what you mean, but it's not like the effects were so bad that it's like,
no. It didn't look cheap. Like, there were parts in Independence Day where I was like, ugh, that didn't age well.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that looked rough. But this so felt like an old movie in it was so nice to see a camera pan down on a crane, not a drone, and be looking at real trees and grass and real sun.
Yeah.
And none of it was done in post. You can tell they're on a real field, and you see bugs flying around, and
actually in South Carolina too,
and
where we're from.
I mean, it was so refreshing to see practical shots on practical sets, real buildings being burned down. Dude, it did feel old in all the best ways. Yeah. I miss watching a movie. Like, it reminds me of like watching the Raimi Spider-Man movies and just being like that was the one trilogy where New York felt like a character. New York, the city, felt like a character, because you see the people walking around and they're like all, I mean, people call it cheesy and stuff, but it had heart, man. Like, it had character, which is why it was so important at the end of the first one when the citizens are like throwing trash at Green Goblin.
Oh, I love that scene in Spider-Man, dude.
It felt like a character, and
you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
Yeah,
dude. Okay, I just want to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
As someone who lived in New York for a very short time, there's this idea about New York that everyone's a big jerk especially in between the South and North, and like everyone's like, yeah, I gotta do my own thing. It's not like that at all. They're just much more blunt. That's it. They're just very straightforward. They don't beat around the bush. I kind of like that. 2, if you show any signs of loving the city, or especially if you're like share a borough together or something, they are like that. They're like, you mess with New York, you mess with all, like they have that attitude. And that's one of the things I loved about that in Spider-Man. Yeah. I mean, when I was young and I saw it, I didn't catch that. But after having lived there, it's like, man, that is kind of how they are. If there was a Spider-Man in New York who was like protecting people, they would totally be like, you don't mess with Spidey.
Yeah.
It's like a family type thing.
And
it's the mafia. No,
I mean, really, like literally. The thing about it too, not to get off on a tangent, but just to throw this out there too, like, you think about it, that movie came out just a little bit after 9/11.
That's true.
So imagine how empowering that was for New York to play such a heavy part in that film, and that be such a massive hit that it was when it came out.
Dude, you just convinced me that Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi first Spider-Man, is a patriotic movie.
It kind of is in its own way. Kind of is.
Yeah. I mean, his costume is red, white, and blue.
That's true too.
If you count the eyes, there's white.
That's true too. So like you were saying, great writing.
Back to the Patriot.
Yeah, Back to the Patriot. Great writing. Acting was phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
Another movie with a loaded cast. That one actually had some Batman people in it too.
The Joker.
Well, the Joker, and then the guy who was like one of the leaders of the colonial army that kind of was trying to. He played. Or no, I'm sorry. He was from the Jason Bourne movie.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
the guy from the British Army who was one of the higher up, like the bad guy in the Patriot that was
Jason Isaacs,
Lucius Malfoy.
Jason Isaacs.
Yeah, he answers to him, or
Oh yeah, I know who you're
The
talking about.
lead guy.
Yeah.
Um,
Cornwallis.
Yeah, he was in Batman Begins. He played
That's right.
Falcone,
I remember that.
or Falcone, as they say in that movie.
Dude, Jason Isaacs as Tavington, one of the best villain performances in cinema.
Yeah, you really see where he drew his like inspiration from himself from that movie to play Malfoy, because he really, it's almost the same character. Like almost like if you give him a wand in The Patriot, same thing. Like but yeah, no, fantastic cast, fantastic acting, even from the kids. By the way, I know the scene, the scene you were like, there's a scene in that movie where everyone cries. As soon as I saw it, I was like, that has to be what Daniel was talking about. And it did choke me up.
I didn't think it was going to make you cry, but I did think it would at least.
It came closer than I thought.
Yeah.
But I didn't. But I was like, the more I like ruminated on it, I was like, dang.
Yeah. Do you think if you had a daughter instead of a son, that it would have gotten you more?
No, because I don't think it was the fact that it was a girl or a boy. I just think it was the fact that it was his baby, his youngest kid, and she had never spoken. And it was the fact that, and the reason I say that is because for my The Boys fans out there, there's a character in The Boys named Kimiko, who she's a full grown adult. She's not a kid, but she never talks. Throughout the seasons and her backstory, you find out like she was traumatized. It's like she never speaks. Her and this other character on the team are the only two who can communicate by like a sign. I'm not even sure if it's official sign language, but it's a sign language that they talk in. And so spoilers for The Boys. In the end of the 4th season, they all kind of split up because like something goes really wrong and people are out to get them. And so her and the guy that she can communicate with, they split off, and they kind of finally had a moment in that season where like their romance bloomed and they kissed, and it was like a kind of a long, like people thought it was coming, but it never did. So it felt earned. It was like a really cool ending, and then they go off together, and then these characters show up and they fling her to the side. And one of the characters can like control people if she touches them and then says something to them. So she touches the guy and tells him, we don't know what she says, but he walks away from her. And the super strong one is holding back Kimiko. And she's like trying to like get out of his grip as the guy like gets into a van that they have. And then she just starts going, no! And like it's the first time you ever hear her voice, and she's yelling no to try and get him to stop. And it's super powerful. So just the idea of having a character who never speaks in like a really emotional moment, finally speaking, it hits.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's the fact that it was a girl and I have a son. I just think it was, like I said, movies don't often make me full on cry.
Yeah.
Like, I think that scene had the effect it would have had on me no matter what, but it was extremely potent. Like I said, it came closer than I thought it would.
Yeah.
That was rough.
Yeah.
But one thing you didn't touch on that I want to give a little shout out to, the score.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know who did the music in that film. The score was multiple times it gave me chills. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good.
Yeah.
I put it like this. One thing for me is like, I know a score is either really good or really bad if I remember anything about it. Like if it's just average, it's probably fine, but like it doesn't hit me. But if it's if it's really bad at one point, I'll be like, that wasn't, like, they could have done better.
Yeah.
And if it's really good, it also sticks out to me. And that there were multiple parts where it stuck out to me, and it was one of the beginning like intro scenes. It might have been when they were like the intro scene where they were kind of showing Mel Gibson's character his land, and like the post writers coming in, and it's a lot of establishing shots. I think it was that intro theme. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like so warm and just lush. It's and then mixed with the scenery. Dude, loved it. I don't know who scored that movie, but they did amazing.
They scored.
I would not be shocked to find out that was John Williams. The only thing that makes me think it wasn't is that he typically has like one really iconic one in there, and I don't think there was one. But anyway.
Yeah.
So overall thoughts, I have really nothing negative that I will attribute to overall thoughts, like just as my takeaway.
Okay. What was the scene that you didn't like?
Not that I didn't like, but because you were talking about like the reason you love this movie so much is not just because you love America and like you think this is like such a good like representation of America. It kind of triggered a thought that there was a moment when I was watching it where I was like, to me, this does not look good. Like for a character that was representing America, and it was right after Gabriel died, and the dad, I cannot remember. Now I'm going to have to look.
Is it the line, I have long feared that my sins would return to haunt me or something?
Benjamin Martin.
Yeah.
That scene. Yes, that scene. The guy who's like his old buddy from the French and Indian War, who's like leading the colonial stuff, he's like completely disregarding that everything he's going through in that moment. He's disregarding everything he's trying to tell him, which they all have been from the beginning of the movie. But he's disregarding all of it and just saying like, look, I don't care. Like, you should come with us because we all feel your loss and your victories matter to us too. And I get that I'm way oversimplifying it, but the reason I am is because it doesn't matter what the context was. That's how that hit me. Like, if I had just had that loss and someone was in my ear saying, hey, like, let's keep going, like, this might, and he even was like, this might be in our ground. Like, he didn't even know. Like, it really still depended on a couple key things happening. And this man has already given you more than he ever said from the beginning he was going to, because he didn't want to be a part of this. And now he's lost 2 sons because of this. That really frustrated me. I was like, that really makes like this country's side of the whole thing look really heartless and callous, and I didn't like that. That's me. That's just like the Independence Day thing. That's a me thing, and I understand that's me like really reading into just a movie script, and obviously the whole point was to like, you know, like show how important his character was to the war and blah, blah. Like, I get all that, but I didn't like it.
I see what you're saying. I could see how you would come away with that, but my interpretation of it was he was saying, like, your involvement in this war has spurred a success. Like, we're close to success, and if you back out now, your son's deaths might be in vain. Like, he didn't say it that way, but he was basically saying, like, I know, I got the impression that he was saying, I know this is really, really hard, but this is war. This is what we have to do in order to succeed. I could totally see what you're saying.
And like I said, like, that didn't like ruin the movie for me. But like in that moment, I was like, I don't like how that's depicted. That's all.
It could have been, the dialogue could have maybe been improved on. Maybe.
Yeah, like, but it's more his lines. I loved what Mel Gibson was saying.
Yeah.
I loved that whole thing you saw. Why do men think they can justify death? But like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh. There were so many good lines in that movie. Mm-hmm. Me and my brother kept looking at each other like, that's a good line.
Yeah.
That was a good line. The whole thing where he goes to parlay with the British soldiers and he comes in alone, and like his whole back and forth with that dude Cornwallis. Oh my gosh. When he says that this is not the way of a gentleman.
Oh yeah.
And he said, well, no offense, but if your men are the mark of a gentleman, then I'll take that as a compliment. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that was a gut punch.
It was so good.
And then when he left, he took the dogs.
Yeah, that was took the dogs, didn't even give them any soldiers.
Yeah,
and then the next scene, that man insults me. I was like, you're darn right he does. I love that movie so much.
Yeah, no, It was great. Like, I guess I should get into, like, because I feel like I'm kind of bearing the lead here. Like, I clearly said what I said at the beginning of this before we got into it, and then so far I've only said positive things. So, like, let me go ahead and clarify, because I'm sure we're going to talk about this a little more. We're probably got maybe 10 more minutes if you include
a little longer, because
the break, 10, 15
that
minutes.
And it started recording for 8 minutes before we even started.
Oh, okay.
So we got a little bit
more
more time.
So we got a little more time, but what I meant was when I was saying about Independence Day just being more in like my general vicinity of like things that I enjoy and maybe enjoying it overall more as a movie is that, and I've told you this before, and I want to say it was in the Sing Street review. It's hard for me to enjoy a movie where bad thing after bad thing after bad thing after bad thing keeps happening. Even if the ending is phenomenal, which it was, the good guys won, which, I mean, you knew was going to happen because it's kind of a historical movie. And I loved them pulling back up to he's like married to the aunt now, which was a little weird.
Not back then.
Not back then. And I get it, but it's just a little weird. Especially like where the relationship started. It's like, hey, I'm at my son's wedding, but like, and then like the next time you see her, she's got like her hand on her stomach, and I'm like, oh, snap. All right, that was fast. And I get it. It's different times. I get it. And I like her character, and I get he probably like was like having feelings for her also because of everything she was doing for his kids. And then it was his wife's sister. So he probably saw some things in her. And I get all that. I get it. Again, not movie ruining. It was just a little weird. I was like, oh, okay. Like when they kissed, I looked at my brother like, what? And Alex says, I totally thought that was going to happen. I was like, I didn't. And I don't like it. I don't like a forced romance. I don't think every movie needs a romance. And Hollywood treats every movie like it needs a romance.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think if the ant romance had not been, I should rephrase that.
Hello, Ant Mother.
That's the Ant-Man sequel.
It actually was.
Yeah. I think if the romance had been removed from that movie, it wouldn't have lost anything.
Would not. Even if you keep her character,
yeah,
and everything, the only thing you change is that he just doesn't make out with her and then she's eventually pregnant. Yeah. Like, nothing changes. Nothing.
Dude, what about his friend at the end naming his son Gabriel?
Loved that.
Oh, my God.
That actually gave that guy a little bit of redemption right before the end because he was the one that I was not digging. But
so why don't you go back to finding Jason Bourne, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he can't because he died in the first movie.
That's true.
But yeah. So that's all I mean. It is overall, like, my enjoyment of a movie is really partially dependent on like having a good time. And I can appreciate a great film when I see one and tell you how great it is and everything about it was great and I have nothing bad to say about it. Maybe other than like some nitpicks, but like nothing really bad to say about it. But that doesn't mean I'll enjoy it more. Because kind of like you were saying, you go to the movies for like a break from certain bits of reality. Like I like to go to movies or to watch movies because I like to I like to just relax and have fun.
Sure.
Like I know another one we talked about that was Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah. Great
movie. Cannot enjoy it. I've watched it once and I don't feel like I need to see it again. Like, I understand the ending's good. It has a great ending. This had a great ending. But it's so hard for me to sit through 2 hours of heart-wrenching failure and disappointment for like 15 minutes of, hey, you got the job. I'm like, oh, great. That's awesome. Now I'm happy. Like, no, I'm sorry.
Oh, dude, I have a completely different perspective.
No, most people do.
I love those movies because to me, it shows you no matter how difficult it seems now, if you press through, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
I absolutely agree.
And like, I like, it gives me hope, especially because like where I've been in life and just, I feel like I've been in a really long waiting limbo season where I'm experiencing what, not nearly to the degree that Chris Gardner experienced it, but I'm experiencing a lot of that right now where it's like I'm not getting anywhere. Like,
feels like doors are closing everywhere you...
Yes.
Yeah, I get it.
And like those movies, stories like that, it makes me feel like I'm sitting in a room with a friend who has been through exactly what I've been through. And he's telling me, this is where I came. If you stick with it, you'll get there too. Like, that's why I love those movies. And that's kind of what The Nation was built on. That's what it felt like to the the colonials when they were in the war is it felt like they're going up against the British Empire.
Yeah.
They're a bunch of farmers with torches and pitchforks, you know?
And I loved that aspect of it.
Yeah.
I loved how it really did depict them as like outnumbered, outmatched, out tacticked. Like they really, I loved all of that. And it is real. I mean, it's based on real history. But I don't like to go to movies to get real history. You know what I'm saying? Like
I know exactly what you're saying.
Like,
I totally know what you're saying.
Again,
I'm not even saying that you're wrong for it. I'm just telling this is why I love them. I could totally understand why you would not love that because you're like, look, I want to deal with real life in real life. When I go to a movie, I just want to have fun and be entertained. Yeah. I totally understand that.
And like, I'm not saying I can't handle bits of reality in my movie. I mean, I think that can add to the poignancy of certain things. But like in a movie, like we were just talking about the Batman, like to go backwards and kind of back to where the scripts were flipped a little, like you had an issue with that one because it was a little too much real life in it for you, but portrayed in a Hollywood way.
Yeah.
I can enjoy that because it's Batman. Like the movie is called Batman. I know Batman's going to win. Like he's a superhero. It's a lot further from reality than a movie that was pretty much based on real history, that like these people really went out and did this. And this is the real gruesomeness that they faced in this and the real daunting feeling of this seemingly impossible task. And even Pursuit of Happiness, I think you've told me, is based off a real dude.
Oh yeah. Chris Gardner.
So, I mean, you know,
on that note, could I express some thoughts that I have about that?
Yeah. I'm hoping.
Yeah. So, one of the biggest gripes, and I kind of briefly mentioned this, but now that you've seen the movie, I want to talk about this with you a little bit. One of the biggest gripes that people always say, it's like no one can appreciate this movie without adding this caveat. It's like, it's not historically accurate at all, but it's a great film. That is such baloney, like that the film is not historically accurate. First off, what do you mean by that? Because it's historical fiction. It's based off a fictional character. Nobody's saying that Benjamin Martin is a real character and all these events in his family and all that actually happened.
Right.
The purpose of the film was to use a fictional creative license and use some storytelling mechanics to try to capture the essence of what the colonials felt like they experienced at the time. And they were spot on. And Benjamin Martin is based off of 3 real characters, Thomas Sumter, Andrew something, I always forget his last name, and then Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox. Yeah. And like the meeting in the swamps area, that was totally based off of Francis Marion.
Yeah.
A lot of the events recorded in the film actually happened. That last battle scene where he draws them in and there's a whole army waiting for them, that was actually a tactic that a colonial general employed and won a battle in the Revolutionary War. Guerrilla warfare, that was totally a thing that actually
ambushing
happened.
them on trails and paths, and
it was a real problem for Cornwallis. That house that they had that meeting in, Cornwallis, that's a house in Camden. You can go. It's not far from here. I've passed it a bunch. I don't know if they filmed it in that actual house, but they rebuilt the house. That's not the actual house,
right.
But like that was a real meeting place where Cornwallis lived. Cornwallis was a real actual person.
Speaking to the accuracy of it, I'm assuming this is real. I didn't realize that back then it was like an unwritten rule that when you lined up to fight, they had the conversation about how because you do start to wonder, you're like, how is this like one dude like becoming so successful with these larger groups of soldiers? Apparently, it was kind of an unwritten rule, or maybe even a written rule, I don't know, of warfare, that like the officers would not take any unnecessary aggression like to a certain point.
Yeah.
So like they kind of were used to being not targeted, but when he would attack them, he targeted them first.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's real or not. I don't remember ever learning that necessarily in history class, but that is kind of a cool fact about old school warfare, like how it worked, because there kind of were rules back then.
Yeah. And it was meant to favor the most powerful nations.
Right.
And they were just like, look, we're fighting for our farms and our livelihood here. I don't care about your stupid rules. That's kind of what that was. So, okay, a really good example of this is when Benjamin Martin, by the way, the scene when he finally decides to get involved because Gabriel was captured and Thomas was
died.
killed.
Yeah.
There's so much. I want to talk about that in a second. That there's so much depth to that in the writing that I just appreciate so much. But anyways, I'll talk on that in a second. But the scene where he takes his sons out, and he's like, aim small, miss small. And he says, Lord, make me fat. That whole scene, that never happened in reality. And as far as we know, someone's son wasn't captured to be hanged by before I get off on a tangent, I'll just say, the point of that scene was to show at some point the colonials felt like they were personally involved in this, and they weren't going to take, and there was a lot of truth to that. The British people were staying in their homes, British soldiers and stuff, and they were kind of bullying their way in their homes, pretending like because they're royalty and stuff, taxation without representation. There was all kinds of reasons why the colonials started to feel like this is personal. This is our home that you're invading now.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to capture that, like why they were fighting, and that's true. Second thing, Tavington, he's based off of a real character, a real historical figure named Bannister Tarleton, who did Francis Marion, I think it was Francis Marion, but it was one of those three guys. He actually did burn down his home at one point because he was such a thorn in his side in the war. I don't know if he did quite the same extreme things that Tavington did, because obviously it's a fictional story. There's some creative elements that they did, but people throw that out like it's not historically accurate. I'm like, well, what do you mean by it's a fiction story? Like they used fiction to capture the true essence of what that felt like, at least what the colonials felt like they were dealing with. And I think another good example of this is Pursuit of Happiness, where no one ever says that's historically inaccurate, because we know that Hollywood changes things for the purpose of telling a story.
Right.
And one example is his son was actually, in real life, Chris Gardner's son was like 2 years old. He was still in diapers. So he wasn't having back and forth conversations. Partially, I think I don't have any evidence for this, but because of the way I've seen the film a bunch, I think part of the reason that they changed the actor's age might have been just to include Jaden Smith. That could have been the reason. But I think one of the reasons is because it gave them the opportunity for Chris Gardner to express things, because he wrote a book, The Pursuit of Happiness, which talked about his life. They wanted to capture what he was saying in that book. And they used the dialogue between him and his son, who could understand him. Like there's a scene where they're playing basketball. Do you remember that scene? And Chris Gardner tells him, I don't want you out here all night because you're probably not going to get good at this or something. And then his son throws the ball. And then Chris Gardner says to his son, don't ever let anyone tell you can't do something, not even me. You want something, go get it. That's something Chris Gardner had actually said. And they used that dynamic to try and capture that.
Right.
So there's, there's some details that were changed, but they captured the essence of a story in an accurate way.
Right.
And Chris Gardner has commented on that. He was like, yeah, it's a pretty accurate representation. The details are changed.
Yeah.
And on top of that, The Patriot is historical fiction. It's not even based off of a real character. Like Benjamin Martin's a fictional character. So I don't know. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Like, I really think people throw that around without actually knowing what they mean by it.
Right.
And they some nitpicks I've heard are people saying, well, the British weren't really brutal or evil like that. And I'm like, some of them were. Like,
you can't know that.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, some of them were. There were British people.
No, I'm saying you can't know. You can't blanket statement and say none of them were, especially when pretty much just the general things that we do know for a fact, like what you're talking about, them invading homes and things like that alone is pretty bad. Like,
yeah.
But then, on top of that, you don't know what's not recorded, like what hasn't been written down. That's not a great argument.
Yeah, I know. And it's also like the point of the movie is to capture the colonials' perception of this is, and you can maybe argue they had a false perception, and that's okay. To make that, I mean, I don't think it was false, but I can understand having that perspective. Maybe the British had a different perspective on why they were, but the point is the Patriot was trying to show you what the colonials felt like was at stake for them.
Yeah.
Like that's why they were fighting.
Yeah.
And it was over stuff like that. Bannister Tarleton also burned down a church too. It was First Presbyterian Church. I forget where it is. It was Indiantown, South Carolina, I think was the name. Indiantown Presbyterian. I think that might be the name of the church. So he actually did. I don't know if there were people in it, but he actually did burn down a church. It's like they based it off of things that literally happened.
South Carolina just got a wide receiver commit from there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Indiantown?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's probably what it was. Indian, yeah.
So I wish I could remember where I was going to go with that, but you did want to touch on the scene where Thomas died. You said you wanted to say some specifics about that.
Okay, I'll be quick because I know we're coming up on time here, but that movie has been a lesson to me in how to establish character and establish their motivations, because the entire beginning is him explaining exactly why he doesn't want to go to the war. That's because he's got a family to protect, and he's like, are we really going to risk? And I agreed on principle with his sons who were saying, this is what we have to do. But I could, especially now having a daughter, like, I could totally understand someone in his shoes saying, like, are we really actually willing to go to war with England, like the British Empire, and lose everything that we have? And I think their point was, we're already losing it, which I agree with. But I get his hesitance. He's scared because he doesn't want to lose his family. And what happens is the war gets brought to him anyway. And then he loses the very thing that he fears happening happens anyway. And now his other son is being taken. And like, here's what's crazy about Tavington is the reason in this film the British lost the war, because Cornwallis even got on him for it. He was like, it was your brutal tactics that, put this man in the war in the first place.
Yeah.
And the scene where he comes back and he takes his son, he rescues his son after his own son dies, and then he comes back and he tells us, he checks with his kids who had to kill people, and he's just like, and he came out and the aunt says, you did nothing wrong, and there's nothing you should be ashamed of. And then he says, I have done nothing, and for that I am ashamed. I was like,
yeah,
oh, like, it's just, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to describe like how good that is at establishing his motivations as a character.
Yeah.
And as he continues, it doesn't get better for him. He continues to experience the things that he feared most happening. And it basically, he comes face to face with, this is the reality and I can't run away from it. I might as well use it to my advantage and fight for what I believe is right.
Yeah.
Like,
so
good.
That line was another one where me and my brother looked at each other like, great line.
Yeah.
Great line. And I do remember what I was going to say, by the way, because you talked about the real life version of Tavington burning down a church.
Mm-hmm.
The church burning thing was kind of one of the like final straws for me, where I was like, maybe this guy isn't so nice. No, I'm kidding. It was kind of one of the final straws for me, where I was like, okay, this is too much. Like, this is where I started to kind of form the opinion of like, there's not an ending good enough to save this movie for me from being one of those ones where it's like, I can appreciate it, but I can't say it's one I'll like enjoy, because it did that thing where it was like good and bad and good and bad and good and bad. And then like it kind of started upticking more to the good. And then I think right after that is when they go to I forget his name, but the guy's house that had the redheaded wife and son, and they were dead. And then he ended up offing himself right in front of all of them, which was a heavy scene.
So heavy.
And then I think is when Mel Gibson's characters kind of said, okay, furlough for like a week. Anyone who doesn't return won't be looked at as like a coward. Go tend to your families. And then him and Gabriel rode off, and I'm pretty sure that's when they went to that like the beach area, And then Gabriel ended up getting married and all that. And I was like, oh man, like, okay, it's like,
no, the church burning was when Gabriel's wife died.
I know, that's what I'm saying. They went and got married.
Oh, okay. So you're saying when the guy
I'm-
shot himself, that was not the church scene.
No.
Okay.
No.
Gotcha.
What I'm saying is, it was like they kind of started upticking a good bit.
Yeah.
And then that felt like the low point.
When the guy shot himself?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. All right. Let's see where it goes from here. They have the wedding, Mel Gibson and the aunt kiss.
His daughter finally speaks.
The daughter's like all this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, we got to be kind of gearing up for the big finale now. But no, they ride into the town. She literally, like, her family is just getting back into town from her getting married. And they are immediately ushered into the church for a town meeting where, after they're thrown under the bus by this dude, he doesn't even none of them get saved, or like there's no, okay, fine, you told us what we need to know. They kill them all anyway. They lock them in and burn the church down. And I will say, part of me was like, that doesn't feel very realistic. But then I did, like, my brother asked out loud, he's like, they can't just like break out from somewhere. And I was like, well, to be fair, because him asking that kind of made me start thinking. I was like, to be fair, I think most of the more able-bodied men were out, like dead or fighting. And he's like, oh, well, that makes sense. So they couldn't break out. Okay, fine. But that didn't make me like that anymore. It made sense, but I didn't like it. And I mean, not that you're meant to, it's obviously horrific, but I'm saying that was kind of the final straw for me, where I was like, she just got married. Like, you just did a really cool thing with them. And then now, which then leads to Gabriel going off the chain, and he rides out, and then
Can't blame him.
Leads to his death. I was just like, oh my gosh, like, it got to a point where I was like, this is too much. Like, it's too much. We had plenty of reason to hate them already. Like, we didn't need more. I get it. I get your point, like, especially in relating it back to Pursuit of Happiness, is like, it does kind of give the message of like, you got to keep pushing through. And yes, I understand that, like, life isn't all peaches and cream. I get it, but
life will feel like too much for a lot. A lot of your life will feel like too much.
And I get it. I really do. But this is kind of a dual point, because I think one of the main points I'm trying to make is that I just think they did too much for me, for my enjoyment. But B, it kind of ties into an overall problem that I kind of immediately had. When the movie ended, I was like looking at it as a whole, and one of my first thoughts was, that was really good. But to me, this felt like either the writers or the directors or the actors, someone with some say knew that they were kind of like in their bag on this, and they were like, we got to do more. Like, and I don't mean more like bad stuff. I'm saying like what I'm saying is, this movie was too long. It's almost 3 hours long.
Oh, see, that's
and that, to me,
I disagree.
For this kind of movie, it went on too long. And I think that's why, like, if it had been shortened to like a good solid 2 hours, you cut almost an hour of time out. That's a significant amount of stuff that you probably could have like still kept the pacing going at a rate where it was like enough bad things to make me hate them, but not so many to where it's like, oh my gosh, this is just kind of ridiculous at this point. Like, this is overkill. It really, it almost gets to a point where he became cartoony. Like,
I disagree with that.
Well, I'm again, this is just my opinion. I
know what you're saying.
This, for me, is why it's what kept this movie, and it's the fact that, like, comparing it to Independence Day, since these were the two I watched, that movie knows it's cartoony. Like, it doesn't take itself very seriously. It's the fact that this movie indulges in itself so much, and it's clearly like one of those that was like a Oscar bait kind of film, like loaded cast, very serious, dramatic acting, like not a lot of humor. There was humor. I'm not saying there wasn't. Not a lot of humor.
Yeah.
To offset the very serious and tragic things that were happening. And I've also told you before, I need some humor to offset. Like, I need some lighthearted moments for me in a movie like that. Like,
Sure.
It became too much. And that to me, I think that a shorter runtime could have helped this movie.
I mean, I get that, but I love it. The length. Yeah, I agree. I already hated Tavington, but I hated him with a new hatred when he burned down the church. It was especially talking about the great lines when the guy said, "All right, start burning down the buildings," and he goes, "Burn the church." Just like the look in his eyes when he says it. And the guy goes, "There's no honor in this," and he like brings his horse closer and is like, "You said." Anyone who oh my gosh, like,
Well, and then after he throws the torch, he tells him the honor is found in the end, not in the means, which is it's a great line.
Yeah,
and actually pretty accurate.
I completely disagree with that.
I'm look, anyone who thinks that American armies haven't done awful things,
I'm not saying that that's justified.
but what I'm not saying you're calling it justified, but what I'm saying is no one talks about that. People talk
about it. America has done plenty of things that to bad means to justify an end that I have completely disagreed with. I'm not saying that America gets a pass on that. America has done that. I'm just saying fundamentally that is a flawed view. The ends don't justify the means.
I'm not saying they do. I'm just saying I think in war it is viewed that way.
By some people, yeah. I mean, by people like Tavington, and some American people. I'm not saying America gets a pass, but we're pretty much up on time here. So.
Oh, okay. I thought it kind of sounded like you were going to say something.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but okay. So that was, just kind of our quick thoughts on those two movies.
What a heavy way to end this.
Yeah, that's kind of why I thought you were going to I thought you were going to say a joke or something, but then you kind of looked at me. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. We're just going to, all right, everyone, go cry for a little bit and then enjoy your July 4th.
Papa!
Fievel!
That's actually why my dad is called Papa, because my brother used to watch Fievel, and he would call him Papa.
That's cool.
So that's why our kids call him Papa.
But yeah, both great movies. It was a really like top tier cinema filled last 24 to 36 hours for me. So I do appreciate the recommendations, even with my gripes about really both. I mean, I had gripes for both. I enjoyed them, and I'm glad I've seen them now, and I've got those under my belt. They're both really excellent films. So
cool.
If you haven't seen them,
what's wrong?
We just ruined them for you. We ruined for them. We ruined them for you, but I still recommend you go watch them. They're really fun. Well, one of them's really fun, and one of them's really good. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and next week, I think.
Maybe not next week. I don't know yet.
Okay. Well, here very soon.
Yeah.
We'll be back with you for our review of James Gunn's Superman.
Oh, we're definitely seeing it next week.
Well, we have tickets, but
yeah,
we'll have to figure out when we can record. But
at the very least, we can do like a little short on YouTube right after the film or something.
Yeah, we might do like an immediate reaction, and then we'll in depth the next time we can record. But we are going next week to see James Gunn's Superman.
Yeah, boogie. Okay, bye-bye.